G'day all, I'm back again for my next video. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for all your feedback on the last video. I put this out there on my Facebook page. This is only a new thing for me, but I really enjoyed some of the comments I got back. I had a lot of good mates, in fact golf pros even telling me what they thought of it, and gave me some really good ideas for some topics in the future. The best part though, I heard from a lot of mates I haven't heard from in a long time, from my time back in Adelaide working back there, and you know, these are guys who are your regular golfers, the weekend warriors out there, the punters. So I've got a lot of questions. I've got heaps of content now for the next bunch of videos, and so I thought I'd just start with the first one, which today is going to be my 4 tips to help you conquer your bogey hole. Okay, so what is a bogey hole? Well, we've all got those. Everyone who's ever played this game for a regular amount of time, or a decent amount of time, has probably had those holes where for some reason they just keep stuffing that hole up. So every time you get round there, it might be in the middle of the front 9 and it just destroys your game before you even really feel like you've got started, or it's in the middle of the back 9 and it really destroys any good rounds. You start to get nervous when you get on the tee. You might even be nervous when you're on the putting green beforehand. That's how much of an effect these holes can have on people sometimes. I've seen it all before. We've felt it all before. The one thing I can tell you is that the good news is these bogey holes don't really change for the rest of your golfing career. As a golf pro, trying to do it on tour, you've got to become really aware of why these certain holes are harder than the others. So basically it happens for golf pros, it happens for amateurs, and I definitely know there's a bunch of you out there who I've coached in the past who probably have the same problem. So this one's for Greg. He actually asked, you know, any tips for conquering your bogey hole? Well, here's tip number 1. So tip number 1 is basically you've got to look at your plan for that hole. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you may never have done this. You may just have stood up on the tee. It's a par 4, so therefore I grab my driver. Okay, so if you look at that hole, what I want you to do is I want you to sit there and think in your mind, where's the trouble on that hole? And what I mean is mostly left and right off the tee. Is the trouble short of the green? Is the trouble long? But the big one is generally left and right for most people. The next thing I want to ask you is, where do your bad shots normally end up? So if you're a slicer of the ball, 8 times out of 10, the bad shot most golfers, Joe punters out there, hit is a slice. It's the one that most are dealing with. So let's just say you are a slicer. If you look at what I just asked you to do, where the trouble is, a lot of the time, a big chunk of the time, there'll be trouble real close on the right hand side and probably where your driver is going to land. So that's got to be something you take into account. So your plan on the hole might actually involve not hitting in the trouble as often. So there's various ways of doing that. Tip number 2 then, so once you've worked out where the trouble is and where your bad shots normally go happens to be where the trouble is on that hole, then you've got a couple of options. But you know, so tip number 2 is, what can you change? Well, you could change your target, or you could change the club selection. So here's a couple of things, okay? So let's say you're that slicer again and the water hazard is close on the right hand side of the hole. You can change your target. So instead of trying to aim down the middle of the fairway, how about look left of the fairway? If there's only a little bit of rough there and you still have a clear shot for your second shot, that's okay. You can hit well left. Sometimes you can even have a hole where you have another hole running down the other side, and if you hit onto that hole, there's no problems at all. So that there's changing your target, okay? But I know golf architects are really good. What do? They're going to stick a bunker on that left side, don't they? Or they put some trees tight down that side to try and stop you from being able to take advantage of something like that on a lot of holes. So what's your next option then? My driver's, you know, if I aim further left, it's going to end up in that bunker. Okay, well now you've got to look at your club selection. So now, if that, say you hit your driver and it normally goes 220 metres and that bunker is at 210 metres, well guess what? That's narrowed your target area big time. So you've got to then look at your club selection. Driver is not the club on that hole for you. So let's say the bunker starts at 210. You want to hit a club that is never going to go 210 metres. So that might be your 3-wood, it might be your driving iron, it might be a 1-iron if you've still got one of those. It might be a 5-iron if that's your favourite club. The main thing you want to do is make sure that you are taking that trouble out of play. And the beauty of hitting a shorter club is that you're going to be more accurate with that. It doesn't matter how good you are with your driver. If you're hitting a club that's shorter and it's hitting it higher, it's not going as far, hasn't got as much, well, it's got more spin on it, it's going to be straighter. That's just some of the facts of the game in terms of what happens when you hit a golf ball with a golf club. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3. Now this is a good one. I've got a favourite saying of mine, which is whatever you do, don't think of a pink elephant. So what did you just do? I said don't think of a pink elephant. Be honest. Did a pink elephant just jump in your head? All right, your brain's pretty literal like that. There's a lot of science out there about how this works, but pretty much your brain's got an image for the pink elephant, and it very quickly put one in there. Oh, you said pink elephant, let's say, but it hasn't really got an image for don't. It hasn't got a memory, hasn't got any emotion around don't too much, and kind of ignores that bit and just sees pink elephant. Then very quickly after that, you might get rid of that. But are you one of these who sits there and sees the water down the right hand side and goes, don't hit it in the water, don't hit it in the water, don't hit it in the water, and where's the ball going? In the water. I don't know, we've all done that. Don't hit it out of bounds, don't do this, don't top it, don't shank it, whatever it might be. The don't part is the issue. This is what you've got to train yourself. You catch yourself out thinking don't hit it into the water, has it down the right with this slicer we're talking about. What you want to do is you want to say to yourself, what do I want to do? Now, because you've just picked the better target and you've picked better club, your target is now nowhere near that water hazard, hopefully. It is left, and it is going to be with a shorter club, and you pick out that target on that wide part of the fairway you've got now, and you are going to be better off all the time if you're starting to think about where you do want to have the ball finish. Your brain is going to work towards getting your ball there. It's going to tell you the kind of image it wants, the feeling that it's going to have of how you need to swing and what impact's going to feel like. If you ask yourself, what do I want to have happen, as opposed to don't. Pretty simple on that one, but you would be amazed how many people don't do that. And if you're honest with yourself, we've all done that at some point, but if you can change that habit. I just touched on it there as well. The other thing that you may want to look at, if it's an approach shot to a green that's causing the problem and not the tee shot, well then what you're looking for is the largest safe area. So if you're someone who can't play a bunker shot and the green is surrounded by bunkers, 7th hole at Royal Adelaide, for example, you just can't do anything apart from hit the ball on the green, or you're pretty much going to be in a bunker. Well, what do you got to do there? You've got to find the biggest margin for error, your biggest landing area. So if the pin's cut on the left, you've got to aim right so that you can hit some kind of bunker shot, some kind of chip shot out on the rough, knock it on the green, 2-putt, and just walk away with a bogey so that you can keep your score together. Golf is not about perfect. Golf is not about our great shots. Jack Nicklaus was famous for saying anyone can hit a shot as good as me at any point in time, but golf is about how good your bad shots are. So if you can start picking the bigger landing areas that give you a bigger margin for error about where your ball's going to land, then you are going to give yourself a better chance of only making a bogey. These holes, we play golf, they have a stroke index. If you've ever played many competitions, you get a card out and they list 1 to 18, which one's the hardest, which one's the easiest. Well, who decides that? It's different for different levels of golfers. But more importantly, what you've got to work out at your home track or at that golf course you're about to play is what are your stroke index 1 and what are your stroke index 18 holes, and work back from that. So if you've got 2 or 3 bogey holes on your course, then treat them as 1, 2 and 3 on the stroke index, despite if they're 18, 17 and 16 on the stroke index. That doesn't matter for you. Okay, so that's what you're trying to do when you're talking about stroke index. You actually want to create your own stroke index and not someone else's stroke index. So hopefully you've got 4 tips in there that would be able to help you over time, over a year, over 100 rounds, help you to conquer that bogey hole that we've all got, or bogey holes. So please let me know if that has helped you. I'd love you to be able to put a little comment down below, hit like, subscribe to whatever we do on YouTube. I'm only new to this, but they're all telling me that this is what you got to do. But one real good one I'd love you to do is, if you know someone else in your playing group or one of your mates who's having this problem, share it with them. Send them an email, share it on Facebook, share whatever. Just share it with them. It's all down there on the bottom how to do that. But I want to hear back from you. What is your bogey hole? Tell me which hole it is. For me, Brookwater in Queensland. This will be the 15th hole, par 4 around the right. Kept hitting in the right entry. Don't know why. Realised that where my miss was right. The tee was already aiming right, and I wasn't allowing for that. So all I had to do was pick a different club and a different target, and all of a sudden I started to not have big scores on that hole. I'd make more putts, make the occasional bogey still, but it wasn't the end of the world. It wasn't a bogey hole for me anymore. So that's my example. Can you give me one? Leave a comment down there, and here's to next time. Thanks.